What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Zach Baker and Dr. Josh Funk. You are listening to the Strength and Knowledge podcast. And Josh, you've done a little bit of some business coaching, business consulting, in addition to founding, running, and continuing to manage Rehab to Perform. If you had to say, what are the three biggest mistakes that you have found with small business owners or business owners in general?
I'm going to go through the quick three, and then I'll do a little bit of a deep dive. And Zach, you can throw in some clarifying questions. But my top three are, first and foremost, that there's no real direction to the company. These are business owners that are caught in the day-to-day. They are working hard, and there's no real measurables or overall focus for their efforts. They are working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, and there's no KPIs, no tracking, no benchmarking, nothing that's giving them very, very tangible or objective ways at looking at whether or not they're actually moving forward. Then you have the short-term focus. So you have the business owner that is focusing on getting the patients in the door, right? They'll sacrifice their schedule. They'll sacrifice something that needs to get done to work on the business as opposed to them working then in the business. Seeing more patients, seeing more clients is working in the business as opposed to creating a better business. And for one reason or the other, they rationalize that $70 to $200, whatever at that given moment, being a priority as opposed to them building 2.0 of their business. And then the third thing is not investing in their understanding of and their tasks as it relates to marketing. I am a big believer that the founder of businesses, in almost an overwhelming majority of situations, need to be competent in the area of marketing. If you're not, and you're just one of those people sitting there waiting for passive word of mouth or just hoping that a couple social media posts will strike gold for you, I would argue that you're not putting yourself in a situation where you're going to be very competitive. Other people will come into the space and they may not have as good of a service of you, but they are going to outmarket you for attention. We are in an attention economy nowadays, and if you don't understand that, that would be something that I would highly, highly recommend diving into.
That's great. I've got a comment or a question for each one of those points. And when you brought up topic number one, there's no direction. It reminds me of all of my friends that I know that have started strength conditioning companies, started personal training, they've opened a CrossFit gym, they've opened a PT, they've done something that they love. And they say, you know what? I love doing this. I should make it my living. And they do a really good job of whatever the service that is that they're providing. But then when you really ask them about the business aspect of things, it takes them a while to answer questions. And when you mentioned that was the first thing that came to mind to me is people who go into a business that they're extremely passionate about, but that was kind of the only reason they sought it out. And they don't really have any clarification after that.
Yeah, I think you need to really take a step back and you need to try to find ways for you to say, 30 days from today, this is what I'm working on, and this will be an indicator as to whether or not I made progress. Otherwise, you're just waking up every day, you're on your own treadmill, life or your business is setting the speed for you, and you're not doing anything to objectively create or make a better business. You want to break your business into departments. You could look at the front side as you're creating awareness or trying to find ways to attract people to your company, i.e. creating leads. You need leads to then have the ability to convert those individuals, to then have the ability to fulfill the service that you are looking to provide. And then there need to be certain things as it relates to quality control, potentially looking at retention, and then potentially looking at keeping those individuals within your ecosystem. So you could have different departments of which you're breaking up actionable tasks on a short-term, 30-day, potentially 90-day, or over the course of the year as it relates to marketing. As it relates to client fulfillment, payment, scheduling, certain things that are more clerical in nature, then you could look at things as it relates to session delivery. How are things going? What kind of NPS are we having? How long are clients staying with us? How many Google reviews are we getting? When a client finishes with us, what is our offboarding? What are we doing to ensure that that individual actively shares word of mouth? What are we doing to ensure that if they need us again, that they're choosing to come back? And then what are we doing to continue the relationship there? So you've got a marketing bucket, you've got a clerical bucket, you've got a clinical bucket in our world, that I think those three areas would be very, very important outside of looking at a financial bucket. So an individual could choose initiatives in each one of those four different categories on a monthly or quarterly basis, and then set something on their calendar of which they would be able to look back at and say, all right, I set out to do X over this 30-day period. Where am I? Was I at the mercy of my business? Was I the one that had the tempo for my day-to-day set by the treadmill, or did I step outside and ensure that I was putting myself in a position to ensure that I'm setting the pace?
No, I love that. And I think it's the simple adage of you're only going to get better at what you identify, measure, and track. And you may not get it right the first time, but you at least have to know where are you starting, where are you ending up, and is your current game plan working? Now, shifting over to point number 2, you had mentioned short-term focus, kind of addressing what is immediately in front of you as opposed to a wider variety of things that are in front of you, both short-term and longer-term future. I always think of the kind of the terms, am I being busy or am I being productive when I get to this? And it's something that personally, just on a much smaller scale, shifting from PT to PT and some other management or leadership roles, whenever I get stressed, I would always revert back to what was common and what I was good at, which was treating patients. And hey, I've got an extra hour in my day. I can knock out these 2 or 3 administrative tasks that I kind of have an idea of how it should get done. But you know what? I have a patient on the wait list. I'll just get them in. I'll knock that out. And I'd always get to the end of the day, and it was, hey, I was busy today. Like from the time I clocked in to the time I clocked out, I was always working on something. It generated revenue. It made somebody feel better. It was very tangible things to look at. But you know what? I never sent out that email to our other staff members on this project we're working on. It just keeps getting kicked down the road. So busy versus productive is really what came to my mind when you mentioned that.
I love that, and it's something that makes me think of something that we've been doing a little bit more, which is talking about like maker time versus managing time. I can manage status quo, or I can make something that is new. If I am managing the status quo, I'm choosing to continue doing things the same as it relates to the word process. If I am in a maker time block where I am creating a new process, the goal in those situations, if you oversimplify this, is to either create more efficiencies with regards to your current processes to make the same amount of money, or you're doing things to make more money. So either one of those situations, you're creating new financial benefits for your company, or you're streamlining things in a way that it becomes easier for your staff and there's less friction in your ecosystem to currently serve the same amount of people. The area that I think people run into problems with here is when their calendar is lacking. They either don't have stuff on their calendar carved out, or they're not strict with their calendar. And this is where they need to look at their schedule on a regular basis and have clearly defined blocks of time where this is uninterrupted, it is protected, and this is where I'm ensuring that whatever I set forth on those objectives, from the first one where we have no direction, that we're saying, okay, I am working towards X over the next 30 days, over the next 90 days, over the next year. And that's my protected time. Nobody's disrupting that. It doesn't matter if a patient comes in, new evaluation, whatever, because that's my maker time, or that's my productive time, of which, like an iPhone update, I'm trying to create an update for my company.
Love it. And the last thing you had mentioned was marketing, and people either not having a game plan or doing it very haphazardly or just very low volume, frequent, intensity, and it's not really getting any ROI. Is it safe for me to assume that sometimes it happens because people are afraid to admit what they are not comfortable with or what they are not good at? And when they're running a business, they tend to revert to spending more time doing the things that they know they're good at. And whether that be treating patients, whether that be mentoring, whether it be doing other things. But then you get into kind of the nuance of the true business aspect of it, whether it's accounting, whether it's marketing, whether it's recruiting or retaining talent. We don't know what we don't know. And I think part of it comes down to figuring out what's industry standard, what is out there, how can I learn more about this? And sometimes maybe we overestimate how good or how bad we are at something, and we don't even know that we aren't doing what is industry standard. So is some of this safe to say, in times of stress, we're going to revert to what we're good at, and we're always going to have a definitive ceiling on how good we are at something if we don't even know how high that ceiling can go?
Yeah, and I think that relates, at least from a marketing standpoint, of you have these highly qualified, highly intelligent individuals. They went through their professional schooling, either directly out of school or a certain time period later. They said, you know what? I'm starting this because I think I have a way to do things different or better. Or you potentially just want to take a certain level of control over your personal schedule, most likely a mix of all of those. And then they're in a situation where they want to pride themselves on the fact that they do such a good job with their work, yet they don't want to do what it takes to share with the world around them about why they're different. So these situations, I like to break them up into some simple buckets, but individuals need to get good at one-to-one or one-to-few. One-to-one situations are cold reach out. There's no secret that when you're starting a business, cold reach out can be a great way to generate relationships with people. Obviously, there's certain strategy here to make it effective, but there's no better way than to try to directly connect with people. You think about medical drop-ins. Yes, that's kind of an old school way of potentially getting in front of the medical community. There could be other ways of getting in front of fitness, youth sports, schools, business community, tactical athletes, etc. Then once you have a certain clientele, it becomes very, very easy to have warm leads. So that is that one to few, where you're asking another individual who's had a good experience with you to potentially be in a situation where they can get an intro. So if you're on a three-way text, three-way DM, three-way email, it's really hard for that individual that you're trying to get connected with, who maybe you had a cold reach out that was unsuccessful, to actually ignore you. And then we get into the digital side where we're more one-to-many. Digital advertising, usually you're getting into a one-to-many with people that don't know you. A lot of times on social, with regards to social posts, you're getting a mix. So you're getting one-to-many for people that know you, and then you're getting one-to-many for people that don't know you. All of those could put you in a position where you're doing also webinars, workshops, or events. But the ecosystem of marketing and having active approaches to getting relationships and storytelling, which really is what you should think about when you think about the words marketing and sales, are what is going to allow you to create traction. If you're just going to sit here champion yourself on the fact that you feel like you deliver a good service, want to potentially put yourself in the driver's seat with regards to having more autonomy with your schedule, but then have this mindset that people are just going to hear about how good you are, I would argue that somebody is going to beat you. They are going to compete with you for market relationships. They're going to compete with you with regards to the storytelling side. And no matter how good you are, your passive strategies are not going to allow you to do what you set out to do.
I love it. Josh, appreciate the time, appreciate the input. If you're listening and you have something that you think would be worthwhile, a struggle that you've encountered or you've helped somebody else with, let us know. If you enjoyed this episode, please share, like, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode of the Strength and Knowledge Podcast.